Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasoda Nandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jasoda Nandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jamuni Tiravanatari Jamuni Tiravanatari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasoda Nandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jamuni Tiravanatari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bo Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Oh. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Go Premanandi. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariba Jikacharya Sitat Shishim His Divine Grace. Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kota Vaishya Brinda Ki. Namchar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Guho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Brinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadip Dham Ki. Jagannath-puri Dham Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samveda Bhakta Vinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Sri Radha Giridhari Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalandasa Dashomesha Paranarko Nadodata Narayana Namaskritcha Naram Chaibam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. The Bhagavatam is his bridge as the sun. It is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision through the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God, Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, the goddess of learning, Mata Saraswati, the author, Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So we are on, let's see, the fifth canto, chapter 13, verse 18, right? All right. Drumeshu Ramsyan Sutta Dada Vatsalo Vyavaya Dino Vivasha Sva Bandhane Kvachit Pramadad Giri Kandare Patan Valim Grihitva Gaja Pita Ashtitaha Drumeshu Ramsyan Sutadara Vatsalo Vyavaya Dino Vivashasva Bandhane Kvachit Pramadad Girikandare Patan Valim Grihitva Gajabita Ashtitaha Drumeshu Ramsyan Sutadara Vatsalo Vyavaya dino vivasha swabandhane. Kvachit pramadad girikandare patan. Valim grihidva gajabita ashtitaha. Drumeshuram syan sutadara vatsalo. Vyavaya dino vivashasvapandane. Kvachit pramadad girikandare patan. Valim grihitva gajabita ashtitaha. Drume shuram san sutadara vatsalo. Vyavaya dino vyavasasta vandane. Kvachit pramadad girikandare patan. Valim gitva aja bihita. Sharam Syan Not all at once now. Drumeshuram syan sutadara vatsalo. Vyavaya dino vyavasasva bandhane. Kvachit pramada girikandara patan. Valim grihitva gajabita. Anybody out there in the biosphere who wants to?
Drumesu sansyana sutadara vatsalo.
Drumeshu ramsyan sutadara vatsalo.
Vyavaya dino vivasha swabandhane.
Vyavaya dino vivasasva bandhane.
Kvachiddamadad girikandare patan.
Kvachit pramada girikandare patan.
Vallim gruhitva gajabhita asthitaha.
Valim gritva vajabita. Drumeshu, in the trees or in the houses standing like trees in which the monkeys jump from one branch to another. Ramsyan, enjoying. Sutadara vatsala, being attached to the children and wife. Vyavayadina, being poor-hearted because of acting on the platform of sex desire. Vivasha, unable to give up. Swabandhane, in bondage to the reactions of one's own activities. Kvachit, sometimes. Pramadat, from fear of imminent death. Girikandare, in the cave in a mountain. Patan, falling down. Valim, the branches of a creeper. Kritva, actually grihitva, capturing. Gajabhita, being afraid of the elephant of death. Asita, remains in that position. If we have time afterwards, remind me about this being afraid of the elephant of death and the famous elephant Keshava in the Sri Sampradaya, if we have time. When the living entity becomes exactly like a monkey, jumping from one branch to another, he remains in the tree of household life without any profit but sex. Thus, he is kicked by his wife just like the he-ass. Unable to gain release, he remains helplessly in that position. Sometimes he falls victim to an incurable disease, which is like falling into a mountain cave. He becomes afraid of death, which is like an elephant in the back of that cave, and he remains stranded, grasping at the twigs and branches of a creeper. We do line for line, or is it too long? What do we do, Dravida? Okay. The precarious condition of a householder's life is described herein. A householder's life is full of misery, and the only attraction is sex with the wife, who kicks him during sexual intercourse, just as the she-ass does her mate. Due to continuous sex life, he falls victim to many incurable diseases. At that time, being afraid of death, which is like an elephant, he remains hanging from the twigs and branches of the tree, just like a monkey. Wow. Bhagavatam pulls no punches. Now let's see what we got going on here. Because what are we supposed to do? If a doctor only delivers, he'll only tell you good news. No matter what the actual condition is, he'll slap a happy face on it. Don't worry. Like Prabhupada tells us, evidently, because of, before TV and all the YouTube and whatever else there is to fill up one's whole day and night with rubbish, Prabhupada would go to the Allahabad High Court, and he would listen to the cases sometimes. And if you think about it, when you listen to Prabhupada, he gives a lot of references to the high courts. So well, let's just say this because of the time factor. We are all. Oh, that was it. There was a man had been. I won't go into the details of the case. It was quite gruesome, and the man was caught. His wife was actually cheating on him, and I'm not just picking on women. Men cheat on their wives cheat on their husband. It's an equal, opportunity exploitation. So this man was a doctor, and the wife was cheating with this servant, and the doctor found out about it, and he brought the servant into his operating, because in those days there wasn't a big hospital that he had his surgery room and his little scene right there at his house. So he lured the servant into the operating room and then knocked him out with chloroform. Chloroform? Yeah, chloroform. Knocked him out with chloroform and then chopped him into pieces and was carrying him out with in a box. And as he was walking out with this box, lugging like a big suitcase, or I don't know how the exact details, there was a policeman who knew him. And the policeman just started to chit-chat. Oh, how are you? Where, how's the weather, this and that? And then the policeman noticed that there was blood dripping from the box. And he said, what do you got in that box? And that's how they found him. But the point I wanted to make was that in the court, obviously the man was sentenced to death. But he had a British, it was a big deal in those days. You get an English barrister, so he had an English attorney, British attorney. And as they were leading him off to the dead man walking off to the whatever it is, the gallows, into the death row, the attorney was patting him on the back, saying, "Don't worry, I'll get you out. I'll get you out on appeal. You're not going to get out on appeal." So the point is that what is the use of flattering words? Like, what is it on the Titanic when it was sinking? The orchestra was playing. I don't know what they were playing. I don't know what. Beethoven's or whatever, but they were fiddling away And as the ship was, so what is the use? The Bhagavatam, is the ultimate spoiler alert. You're going to grow old, you're going to drop dead, and you can't take anything with you. End of story. I mean, there's no surprise. Although people are always surprised. Oh, so and so died. I mean, it's natural, but what else did you expect? Think they were going to live forever? Who's that? William Carlos Williams, the poet, said, I always knew that everyone was mortal. That was easy to see. But I thought in my case, I thought they would always make an exception for me. Everybody else is dropping dead, but I'll escape. So the point I'm trying to make is that the Bhagavatam, it's not harsh. It's not picking on us. It's not, what is it? I think it's Blake who says, talking about priests, men in black muttering no. You can't do this, you can't do that, this is wrong, can't do this. So many do nots. It's the first thing I heard Prabhupada say when I walked in the temple. We have so many do nots. I thought he was talking about donuts. I thought, man, I landed in the right place. Must be vegetarian donuts, no eggs. And then I said, he said do nots. I said, well, I'll stay. But the point is that if we take it seriously, if your house is on fire, do you stop and, I just want to see the end of the movie, Your house is on fire. What do? What's the natural instinct? I mean, you'll knock over your dying grandmother to get out the door. So, I mean, let's hope not, but, if the plane's going down, it's, well, I'm waiting for the next course, that it's not happening, So, if we understand the seriousness of our situation, then we don't play around. And Bhagavatam, someone's having in hysteria or whatever, they can't, because it talks about sleeping. Somebody's in deep sleep and they can't wake up, don't wake up. What do? Can't wake somebody up. Pour water on them, bucket of cold water, they wake right up. So we shouldn't fault the Bhagavatam or think it's, angry or, no. The Bhagavatam understands the urgency of our situation, is saying, wake up, snap out of it. This is how the story ends, and it doesn't end well. So that's a little setup. This section is called The Forest of Material Enjoyment, and it's talking how one wanders off the path into the forest. If you wander off in the path into a dense forest, they have those forests that you can't see. You ever been in a dense, even a pine forest? Yeah, the black forest, because there's no sun inside of it. Yeah, and the Amazon or whatever, but you walk off that path. You don't know whether to turn left, whether to turn right, where you are. I mean, there was a devotee I know, nobody in this present company, who became so frustrated with life, they were going to commit suicide. And they were just walked off into the forest. And they figured, I'll just walk till I drop dead. But and they were up in the Cascade Mountains, which is Oregon, right? I think, or Washington, whatever it is, a dense forest. And so here's the road. They parked their car, left everything, they abandoned everything, and just walked. But Krishna is the super soul, because it was a dense forest, they walked and didn't realize it. They just walked in a circle and wound up, whatever you call it, but they wound up right back by the road, 20 feet from their car. They said, well, I guess I'm not supposed to commit suicide. Got in the car, drove, and met the devotees. It's a whole story, This is off the track, but it's blissful. Shilavati, who was the original Adi Pujari trained by Srila Prabhupada, the little Radha Krishna, she was going to commit suicide. She was living in San Francisco. Tried everything, it had all gone south, So she was sitting on a bench in Golden Gate Park, and she was thinking, she said, this is it, God. What do they call it, the zero moment? Yeah, Zimat, the zero moment of truth, that, okay, this is it. It's either up or down, in or out. This is it. So she said, God, if you're there, this is it. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to go home, turn on the gas, kill myself. Because what's the use? There's a guy, you ever seen this bumper sticker out here? I'm pointing this way. But in the parking lot of our park right here, well, not our parking lot, but might as well be. But there's a bumper sticker, and it says, pain is, existence is pain. Have you seen that one? Yeah, and it's got a guy, it's that famous picture of the guy across the bridge, and he's, screaming like that, existence is pain. So she'd come to that conclusion. Shalavati, Mataji. So she said, okay, God, if you're there, this is it. What's the use of just, banging my head against the wall? If there's no, if there's no God, there's no soul, there's no purpose, She said, this is it. Show me someone who's actually happy. Someone who's actually, and not just this, flickering, flash in the pan happiness, and who's actually experiencing happiness on another plane. Show someone who's actually fixed in, who's dhira, undisturbed and transcendent. Show me, or that's it. And as soon as she finished her prayer, just around the corner came Badrinarayan Swami with the Harinam party. I swear to you. And anyone who ever saw Badrinarayan Swami, there was somebody who was definitely relishing something sublime. And the devotees were, and she just literally fell in line, followed the devotees back to the San Francisco temple. I think they were on Frederick Street in those days, and moved into the temple. Best decision she ever made in her life. So when you get off the path, and what is that path? It's the path of Dharma. Probably when I say we have so many do-nots, we don't do this. Every bona fide process, yoga process, has yama and niyama, which means you have do's and do-nots. I asked Ram, I don't want to embarrass him, but I don't know if you remember this. I asked Ram, remember when I taught you how to drive? That statement alone is, talk about the, Anyway, he's managed to survive. But I did teach Ram how to drive. And Ramapati, I said, Ram, did you ever drive a car before? He said, yeah. I said, well, didn't they have any, because I gave him the book, the booklet, that there's a lot of stuff in that, the motor vehicle, DMV thing, there's a lot of, geez, and Ram's an efficient Brahmin. What is this? I said, no, Ram. I said, you ever drive in India? I said, yeah. I said, well, didn't they teach, weren't there, the rules of the road? He said, yeah. He said, there was one. I said, what's that? He said, don't hit anything. And if you think about it, that pretty much covers it, isn't it? You may get hit. There's nothing you can do about that if somebody runs a red light and smashes into you. But pretty much like, what is it? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna from Rupa Goswami. It's the essence of all instruction. So if you're driving, don't hit anything. That pretty much covers it. I was impressed. I said, oh, there's a Brahmin who got to the bottom of the thing. But there are some helpful moments. Like, like what do the signs mean? Like stop, railway crossing, one way only. Those are pretty valuable pieces of information, right? So, anyway, so if we go off into a dense forest and we're off the path, then what happens? And the force of material enjoyment, when it gets off the path of Dharma, there's no guardrails, there's no guidelines, there's no directionals, and we're just roaming. So when you get off the path and once lost and roaming, it does not end well. And that is the point they're making here. That I'll give you an example. One of the things, because this is wandering. Wandering has the idea of there's no time, isn't it? When you're wandering through an alpine meadow or whatever you're doing, you're not fixed. Like the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So that's not wandering. I'm going from A and I'm going from B and I'm going in a straight line. Wander means you're just meandering. And if you think about it, I was thinking about well, let's start with some simple ones. Grocery stores. They are insidious. People run into a grocery store, not us, but they run into a grocery store to get egg, milk, butter, a box of cereal and a thing of cereal, and a bottle of milk. Where do you find the milk and eggs, which we don't, obviously? Where do you find those things? They're in the back of the store. Do you know that 80% of the people who walk into a store will turn left? I don't know the reason why. I don't know, but that's the fact. They'll turn left. And what do they have the left? They have the fruits and the vegetables, and everything's nice and glistening clean. And you just walk in, and the poor little jivas, oh, that looks nice. Oh, that looks interesting. The impulse buying. There's no clocks. You will not see a big clock on the wall of a grocery store. You won't see it. You don't see it in a casino. And I was thinking about it. Of course, I don't know if people still go to malls. I guess they still go to malls. But there's always some nice piped-in music. I mean, I'm not talking about a funky mall. Let's go to, instead of let's go to a nice mall. Go up to UTC or whatever it is, Oh, they got piped-in music. They've got little comfortable nooks that you can sit, and they've got all kinds of, that cinnamon bun, whatever that, they mix that, whatever it is, that little cinnamon thing. They have fake cinnamon smell that they blow out it blows out into the mall when you're walking by. And the little jiva, oh, maybe I'll go in here. So they're just, and it's like that online. You just roam, people spend hours. They go onto YouTube and they fall into that dark hole for which there's no bottom. So when you wander, that's what the living entities do, and it's insidious. Insidious means it's seditious, it's criminal. It's what's a good for insidious? I mean, it sneaks up on you. Creepy's good, but not in the sense of spooky. Well, the result is spooky, but you don't realize it's happening to you. So there's when we fall off the path of Dharma, when we lose sight of what the goal of this life is, and we just wander in this world, that's what happens. All these different analogies as we're going into them is explaining what's happening. So there's that. Now, there's a nice, what time is it? Oh, geez. There's Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj told me an analogy. And it's from, where did he say? It's one of the Upanishads. I can't remember which one. But I've told it before, but it's a new audience, at least some. A man falls into a well, a dry well. And it's because it talks here about falling into a well and grabbing. Hope it doesn't happen to you very often, but I think at some point in time we've all had a dream that you fall off a cliff, or you fall, and you're falling, and you land on a ledge. Oh, geez, thank heaven! And then the ledge crumbles, and then you grab onto a branch, and then that comes out, and you're falling and rest, falling and rest, falling and rest, but you never get to an ashraya, or an actual safe place. Well, that's the condition of the living entity. We're just, falling. So the analogy is a man falls into a hole, and falls into a dry well. And he's just, you're just grabbing to get a hold. He grabs onto two things. Whew. And then as his eyes adjust, he looks down. In this case, it's an elephant, but in this particular case, it's a big cobra, king cobra. You ever seen those king cobras? Man, those things are terrifying. It is a terrifying entity. They're like they can stand up, they can strike 12 feet. Oh man, it is makes you think that snake bird. So as his eyes adjust, he looks down, and he sees a snake at the bottom, saying, "Come on down, buddy. Come to Papa, right down here. Oh, I can't go down. Maybe I'll go up." And he looks up, and at the top of the well is a tiger, saying, "Come on up, little snack item. Come on up." So he can't go up. He can't go down. And he's holding onto these, they're branches. And one branch has a white rat gnawing through the thing. It's about halfway through. Whew. And this side, there's a black rat gnawing on the thing. about halfway through. Can't go up, can't go down, can't stay where he is, not for long. But over the mouth of the well, there's a tree, and the tree has a branch. And at the end of the branch, there's a beehive, honeybee. And he feels this, something dropping on it. He looks up, and there's little drops of honey coming out of the beehive. So he opens his mouth. Hey, not so bad. So he's in that condition. The snake below, the lion above, the black and white rats drawing through the thing, but he's getting a little drop of honey. He thinks, well, not so bad. We're almost done with the analogy. The cobra at the bottom is the life force. There's that whole other, there's so many analogies using the snake as the life force. I think even in modern, anyway, we're off the field. So the time will devour us. The life force will go. There's no question about it. So we're going to die. Up above, the tiger, Durga rides on a tiger. The goddess of the material nature. Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, Adi Atmik, the different threefold miseries. So, you go up, you're just going to be devoured by the material nature. And all the miseries that come. She's got her trident, the whole thing. The three modes of nature, threefold miseries, poking at the living entity. Like a cop. In the old days, you got the Irish cop swinging the billy club. Move on, move on. So that club is time in the hands of the material nature. Can't stay. You got to move on. Got to move on. Can't sit. Can't rest. And then what the roots that you're holding onto, white rat, black rat. Anyone want to guess what that is? It's night and day. But we get a little bit of happiness. So that's what this material nature, that's what it means. Momentary relief, but it's really just a nightmare from one dangerous situation to another. Now, because I'm thinking of the time factor, it describes how there's jumping from branches to branch. And Prabhupada compares that to, I was in a darshan, and a man kept saying that we're making progress. But we're making progress, Swami. I mean, look at it. People used to die of polio. They used to die of smallpox, black plague. And we've made progress. Made so much progress. People, were just, no education and serfdom. We've moved out of the dark ages. Come on, we've made progress. Anyone want to argue, take a whack at that one? If I have a balloon and I push down one end, I've definitely pushed that end down, right? But what happens? The other end goes up. You push that one down, you push both ends, it goes up in the middle. So all we've really done, we've cured this disease. We've got so many new diseases that are coming from it. So Prabhupada said your progress is like, progress means you're moving, right? I'm moving in a direction, right? Well, what is the important question to ask? Hey, I'm making progress, right? When the guy falls off the cliff and says, well, as he's falling, well, not so bad, so far so good. The problem is not falling off the cliff. What's the problem? Hitting the ground. So Prabhupada said to this guy, progress, we're making progress. He said, well, yeah. Prabhupada said, and your progress is like a moth into the flames. So you're moving forward, but what's the result of the whole thing? So Bhagavatam asks us to we're supposed to step back and think. The human, Magrari, when Magrari spoke to Narada Muni, what was it? And Narada said, at least you're leaving these animals half dead. They're suffering. If you're going to kill them at least. Better you don't kill them, but if you're going to kill them, at least kill them. Don't leave them half dead. And what was Magrari's answer? That was the point. We've always done it this way. My father did it this way. My grandfather did it this way. So, sure. You get on the conveyor belt, you work hard. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes so-and-so with a baby carriage. You get married, you get a house, you get a job, you work hard, you retire, you move to Florida, whatever it is, and you drop dead. Kijai. Well, why? Why? That's what everybody does. Well, that's life. To take good care of your teeth, because you might live to 80. So that's life. So the Prabhupada gives an example. There's a farmer working in a field. It's hard work, Talk to Damodar out there at the farm. It's hard work. You guys visit every 2 weeks now. You go out to the farm, and it's a break. I mean, it's devotional service, and Damodar's a great guy, so he does relish his service. But, just to be an average farmer is hard work. Sun, long day, working from sunrise to sunset, before the sun rises. So, the farmer's thinking, and what is the use of all this? See you later. What is the use of all this? What do I do what does he do with the grains that he raises? He says the merchant comes. The grain merchant comes, buys all my grains. And he just hassles me for the price and, works so hard, and he's the one who makes all the profit. So the farmer thinks, if only I could be the grain merchant, I'd be so happy. All right. Now, what is the grain merchant thinking? Grain merchant think, these farmers are always giving me faulty bags, fill their bags half full, they're underweight, they give me cheap grains, so I got to haggle with these guys, such a hassle. Now, he thinks, if only, and what happens? Taxman comes, takes all my money, right? I got to pay all the taxes. My profit is nil, practically speaking. So what is he thinking? What is the grain merchant thinking? The farmer's thinking, let me become the grain merchant. The grain merchant's thinking, geez, let me become the tax collector. That's great. Now, what is the tax collector thinking? Nobody likes me. I come up and knock on their door, all the windows slam shut, the lights go out, nobody home. I sit down at a wedding, nobody wants to talk to me. They think, oh, geez. See, I'm ruining my reputation. I'm getting harassed left and right. And what happens? I have to give everything to the king. Isn't it? I have to, I minuscule profit. I get some peanuts commission. So if only I could become the king, I'd be so happy if I was the king. This is the last one. Now the king, what is it? Heavy lays the head that wears the crown. You got to worry about everything. You're going to be, army's going to attack, and you got some envious guy trying to assassinate you, and you got to satisfy all the citizens. It's a tough job. So what is the king thinking? He's sitting there in his courtroom trying to sort everything out and keep everybody in line, and he looks out his window and he sees the farmer. And he says, geez, fresh air, no boss, nobody giving a hard time. If only I could be a simple farmer. You follow? Everybody's thinking the person next to them is having a great time, but nobody's having a great time. So, because of the time factor, well, I could say something about the donkey, but I'll say this, that in the forest of material enjoyment, nobody wins, nobody succeeds, nobody's happy, and they simply wander. And we'll read all the different ways they're harassed. And remember that Jad Bharat is talking to Maharaj Rahugana. So he's got to be a little elliptic. He's got to be a little careful of what he says. He's trying to get through to his pride. So what is it? Maharaj Rahugana wakes up and says, wait, he's talking about me. He's talking about the human condition. And it's true. So what saved Maharaj Rahugana from his wandering in the miseries of the material world, the forest of material enjoyment? What saved him? What's that? he met a pure devotee, and they're going to talk about it a little later on. So I wanted to end with the nice story I heard from Charu. You know our temple in Utah, which is the land of the Mormons, largely. And we're good friends with the Mormons. When you fly into Salt Lake City, at least it was some years ago, you go to get down the escalator or whatever to get your luggage, and there's the state flag. There's the governor saying, "Hi, welcome to Utah. Give us your money." So that's what but they have some scenes as you're walking towards your luggage, scenes from Utah. I swear to you. There's a picture of the mountains, there's a picture of the Mormon tabernacle, whatever the high points. And one of the high points, there's about 10 pictures, and one of the high, raft riding, whatever you call it. One of the pictures is of the Hare Krishna temple, of our temple. It's one of the high points. So they gave the city of Salt Lake Arts gave $46,000 grant to finish the temple. I mean, we've got a great relationship. So the senator opened up the temple. I was there with it. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. But just as an interesting sidelight, he was a humble guy. He took off his shoes, because when you come to the temple, you take your shoes off. There was a big hole in his socks. He said, "Well, I didn't think I was have to take my shoes off, So he was a nice guy. Loved prasadam. Point I'm making is that how did we get that nice relationship, and what is the potency of the association of devotees? And I'll say the end first. It means that if we actually, that splash of cold water, if we wake up and realize we are wandering in the forest of material enjoyment, and everybody else is too. Therefore, if we get delivered, like Vishnujan Swami dancing through that park, what is our obligation? If somebody gives us what kind of person, if somebody helps you and we don't reciprocate, what kind of person are we? Ungrateful, miserly, self-centered, bitter. And you meet people who are miserly. They are not happy. We met that Birla, the big, like Rockefeller, one of the Rockefellers, and he said the devotees, Shatadanya was the sannyasi, and I had the good fortune to go with him. And they had a big, beautiful picture of the deity, Radharasa Bihari, because that was practically the only temple, big temple in India. And so they said, "This is a gift for you, Mr. Birla." And he said, no, I don't. How much is it? I don't take gifts. I never accept a gift. We said, why? He said, because every gift comes with, you want something. I know that you want something. He said, I don't even open the window because I know that the wind that blows in is going to ask me for something. Imagine what a miserable state. Or J. Paul Getty, who said there's only two types of people in this world. People you pay to stay with you and people you pay to stay away from you. It's a miserable life. So if someone saves us from that miserable condition, who said gratitude? Someone said we were indebted. So what is that debt? For those of us who feel that we've been saved from this horrible forest of material enjoyment, we've been saved. So what is the natural instinct? It's to help others. That's what it's all about. So because they don't see an alternative. They're wandering with no alternative. I mean, yesterday's verse was the false yogis and swamis. What were they compared to? Cranes, yeah, man. Okay, so to finish. So how did the power of devotee association, and how did they have that? How many kids at their holy festival in Utah? It's thousands. It's like 10,000, 15,000. And you see them chanting and dancing, they're just bouncing out of their skin. So how did all of that happen? Okay. Also in Utah, in that, Idaho, Utah, eastern Washington state, there's a lot of white power, Aryan nation. Heavy, Nazis, white power, racists. Heavy. So as they were building the temple, it looks like Kusum Sarovara, they had a big fence around it, and construction fence. And they also have, someone donated some llamas. Hari Rama, Hari Lama. They donated some llamas, true story. And, by Bobby and Charu, who are the dynamic husband and wife team, just fantastic, they figured, hey, they took care of the llamas, and then they were renting them out as pack animals. I mean, people who go backpacking or whatever, into the beautiful, whatever those mountains are in back there, Sawtooth Mountains or whatever they are, they rent them, and they were making money. But evidently, llamas breed like rabbits. So after they started with 2, happened to be male and female, and after a while they had over a dozen. They had a herd, whatever you call a group of llamas. So there were some of these punk kids, white power, Aryan nation, right? They thought, well, let's go spray paint swastikas and 8-8 for Adolf Hitler, whatever they do. Let's paint some fascist signs on this, on the Hare Krishnas. There's nobody else to pick on. Everybody's Mormon, so let's go pick on the Haris. So they climbed over the fence at night, of course, with their spray paint, and I'm too cool for you, right? And they were going to spray our temple. Now the thing is, the llamas, which I didn't know, were used by the Incan princes and kings. In Peru, the Incas, right, the Aztecs, and then it's the Incas. They used to use llamas as guards. They're like peacocks, like the Mughal kings used to use peacocks, because they learned the schedule. They learned, and it used, when Vrindavan was full of peacocks, it would happen. They're used to, okay, the guy delivering the milk comes at this time, the chowkidar, the guard, opens that gate. They learn the scene. And as everything stays within the pattern, they're quiet. Something unusual happens, those peacocks go off. And when you've got 30, 40 peacocks, meow, meow, it's an unbelievable sound. And they worked as guards. So similarly, the llamas would work as guards in the Incan palaces. And llamas don't speak. They don't make any sound. But what they do, anyway, so picture these guys, little punk kids, climb over the fence, ha, 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 we're going to spray the Haris, right? What the llamas do, and now by this time they've got a herd, they've probably got 15 llamas, right? They make a circle. And then they slowly close in the circle. And they don't make a sound. And they're big. Llamas are, they're about 6 feet tall, if not taller. And what they do is they punch like kangaroos. A kangaroo can kill you. Oh, kangaroos are tough stuff. Don't mess with a kangaroo. They're not the little happy roo out there, man. So the llamas can punch like deer. Deer can knock you, can kill you. Yeah, they stand on their hind legs and punch. Oh yeah. In case Triveda Prabhu's ever out in the forest and runs into a deer, now you know what to do, right? No, exactly. He'll offer prayers. So anyway, to finish the story. So these guys, I don't know how many, 3 or 4 of them. I think it was 4 actually. So the llamas circled them, and the circle gets closer and closer and closer and closer, and they don't speak. And they've got slit eyes like goats. They are a scary beast. And they're coming at you, and the circle's getting smaller and smaller, and they are not friendly. They're not there to say hi, give me a snack. So they've panicked. The big, heavy, Nazi, they were calling for their mother. They're out in the middle of nowhere. And they made such a ruckus out of fear that it woke up Bobby and Charu, who, went out there, turned on the lights, found it there, called the police. Now, we're getting close to the end. The police... and it's a good system. It's called restorative justice. Suppose I mug an old lady. Okay, I can throw you into jail, and you'll probably do it again. So they make you, it's called restorative justice, and I'll have to mow her lawn for a month. or, to 6 months. Or I'll have to help her to, take her to the grocery store. And you develop empathy. You develop, you're supposed to realize, hey, this is a person, and I've harmed them. It's reformative. So as a punishment, the police, the judge that you had to work for the Hare Krishnas, I think it was every Saturday for 6 months or something like that. So let's say there were 4 or 5, but anyway, let's say 4. So 3 of them did their time, and off they went back to whatever they were doing. Now, one of them, like these workers, they take prasad with the devotees. They get a little breakfast. They get to know the devotees. Devotees chit chat with them, and so what happened is this one of the 4 actually became interested in Krishna consciousness. Now his uncle was the provost for students at Brigham Young University, which is the big Mormon university. And he took care, all the student programs and this and that. He was especially good at youth. And he couldn't save his own nephew. His own nephew had become a Nazi, fascist, drugs, just a lowlife, right? And he'd tried everything. The Mormons, all the, whatever the Mormon programs, and he took him to the Catholics, took him to a psychiatrist, shock therapy, tried everything. And he just stayed a mean little bugger. But the Haris, he stopped drinking, he stopped smoking, he stopped being a fascist, rather Pandita Samadarshana. He completely saved him. So the father was so grateful, the uncle was so grateful, he started bringing different youth groups, and that was their, and that's how they got into the youth, and the whole thing grew, so just, Prabhupada says, from in a forest, as one tree catches on fire, it can burn the whole forest. Similarly, one fragrant tree can perfume the whole forest. So just the association of a devotee, they're in the forest of material enjoyment, but the association of a devotee perfumes the whole thing. So as we've been saved, we have a duty to simply go out and give them association. They see a devotee, they think, oh, geez, I just said something mean to this guy, didn't even bat an eye, came right back at me with something nice. I'm good, could be better. So there it is. Let's not get lost in the forest of material enjoyment, but save others, because it's the only cure. And what's that? Some llamas. The problem is they become nonviolent. We find that our pets become nonviolent. Our cats stop eating rats. The guard dogs stop barking. Okay, we can end there because we're over time. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. The mad elephant, I just remembered, I'll be quick, and you can pack them and get ready to go. But the mad elephant, there was an elephant named Keshava, and I forget the temple in South India. It wasn't Tirupati, Srirangam, it was at Srirangam. So since he was a small baby, he was they take the deities out on parikram around the temple. So, they always would come, and he was the one who carried the Utsav deity of Ranganath. But he got old. Even elephants get old. He got old, and it was a strain on his back, and so they thought, well, it's too old. And because you ride, just you see in Mayapur, they got the Mahant riding on there with what is the Mahant? Anyway, whatever. Mahot. So he's directing, you got a guy on your back, you got a palanquin, you got the deities, it's a big thing, So he was too old. So they figured we better phase him out. And what they did was they brought the deity out, and usually they get up and put him on his back. And they walked to the elephant next to him. And Keshava flipped out. Didn't hurt anybody, but smashed all the fruit stands and just went into a rage. And so you can't control a mad elephant, that's the point. So they brought the Utsav, the small deities, in front of him, and he immediately bowed down. And they put the deities on their back. He was completely peaceful. So they let him carry the deities until he literally dropped dead. And if you go to Srirangam, there's a big elephant, there's a big statue, and a little plaque explaining about Keshav, the devotee elephant. So that's a mad elephant. You can't stop it.
Maharaj?
Sorry, we're late. It's time for breakfast. Sorry.
I have a question.
I know, and we all have questions. But it's time. They're asking, when will this guy stop and we can have breakfast? So there's more of them than you. I apologize. So
No problem.
you can
Maharaj,
ask
I
Balaram next
understand.
time.